Greetings and my love to members of Guru Bekhenze or Medicine Buddha Mandala. Well, as we all know, 2020 has been really rough for all of us all over the world. And Bhutan has been really fortunate so far. And I know that we will be protected under the leadership of such Bodhisattva King and then the great leaders in the country and the support from the nations. As we say, we will cross the bridge when we get there. So I think it's the time for us to really cross the bridge now. As Bhutan just declared or locked down, and is a really fearful kind of moment for most of the people in the country. A fear on top of fear. So being a spiritual follower myself, I was just thinking that maybe I wanted to encourage people to be more aware and inward your fear and try to really contemplate the meaning of your life and the values in your life. We are very distracted. Bhutan has been really blessed being a Dharma kingdom for the longest time, since 8th century, plus almost 1,000 years. We have been really blessed by such great masters and our ancestrals, our grandparents who have been really devoted and honest and practicing loving kindness. So through that residual of blessing still contains, and we are still very fortunate. And I think it's important for us to now appreciate and to really actualize the meaning of life and to try to look into the really meaning of life, especially when it comes to this kind of situations. By nature, somehow we are forced to rethink the meaning of our life or the purpose of our life. So here I wanted to encourage and remind all of us, including myself, that in the great Dharma by precious master always remind us to utilize the circumstances or the conditions, to be support, to practice Dharma, regardless of being success or unfavorable circumstances or favorable circumstances. It is always important for us to not to be too attached to the things around us. When we are well, healthy, successful, we get too distracted and we sway from we get distracted from our spiritual path. When we have a lot of difficulties and unfavorable circumstances like this, also we get depressed and we are not able to focus on the meaning of our life. And so we, being ignorant human beings, we are not able to comprehend, all these emotions. So I just wanted to encourage all the people to be more relaxed and just to take this opportunity to, really do something meaningful. And instead of playing games and watching movies and just sleeping and also fearing, what will be next. I think for the next few days, if you could really contemplate according to the Dharma, I think we can actually achieve a lot of goodness into it. As we say, blessing in disguise. So in the Dharma we say, King and Trosu Chaura Chingilops. So using unfavorable circumstances as a path to grow ourselves. So this is why I'm just recording few steps or the practices here for people to meditate on, contemplate. It's nothing about recitations or visualizations, or saying prayers. It's all about contemplation and actualizations. So the practice of this meditation is to contemplate and to question yourself and try to find answer for the purpose of your life. Hope this will benefit people around us, and hope this will benefit confused people as well as people who are very open-minded and searching for the meaning of life. So I am doing this with pure intention of sharing what I practice or what we are supposed to do as a Dharma follower or as a spiritual practitioner. Hope this will benefit all of you. Thank you. All right. So, since we are born in a country where the Dharma is still available, we do have such nature of making offerings, visiting temples, doing charitable activities. These are all the right thing to do, but I'm quite not sure if you are doing the right thing wrongly, because I kind of suspect that we don't have the right motivations of doing all this Dharma activities. And when Gautama Buddha taught Dharma in India, he initiated the first teaching with Four Noble Truths, by explaining how difficult the samsara is and the life is and the meaning of life, and then where there are a lot of sufferings and uncertainty and unfavorable circumstances could be happened. And all this suffering will only happen because of when we have our emotions, destructive emotions such as ignorance, anger, desire, jealousy, and the ego. So then he taught the third subject of gaining freedom. So that freedom is to be free from those unfavorable circumstances. And in order to gain the freedom, we need such path as called Eightfold Paths and 5 khandhas or 12 interdependence. Anyway, the wisdom of such enlightened beings are very important. Similarly, in 8th century, when Guru Padmasambhava traveled to Himalaya, and after he taught the Dharma, and all the masters followed a similar approach of like what Gautama Buddha have actually initiated in Himalaya. So we use the 4 thoughts, we call it, 4 thoughts that can be, or 4 thinking that can turn our minds from this samsara, or to gain the freedom, or to understand the meaning of life, or be the purpose of our life. And so if you don't understand the fundamental or the primary purpose of why even we have to make offerings and do this practices and visiting temples and making offerings, and then I think actual practices will be very religious, very superficial, like how normal religion will idolize and worship, for the benefit of only current well-being of present life, and to be more successful, to be healthy, not go to be born into hell when we die. So these are very unawakened way of thinking, not very wise and not very healthy way of motivating or practicing our spiritual path. So especially in Nyingma tradition and the Kaju, always teacher in the Dharma always remind us to contemplate and to master into these 4 thoughts of turning our mind from the samsara. We call it Lodok Nambaji. So during this lockdown time, I wanted to take this opportunity to share these 4 thoughts with all of you. So it's nothing to be reciting or saying prayers or meditating on the image of the Buddha. You don't have to do anything like that. What you need to do is you just need to contemplate and inward the thinking, and then to search the meaning of your life and the whole purpose of your life. You needed to just question yourself and contemplate on the meaning. It's beautifully structured in Mahayana Buddhism. We call it 3 different wisdoms that can be gathered from the Dharma learning. Wisdom from hearing of teachings, and wisdom from contemplating on the meaning of what we have heard, and then the wisdom that we could gain wisdom through actualizing and practicing on the meaning that we just contemplated. We call it Tebe Shirap, Sambe Shirap, Gombe Shiraps. So there are three ways of accumulating your wisdom or the finding the answers to your life, or anything in the Dharma. So this is really a beautiful approach, and then the structure that we could utilize for ourselves to understand the purpose of our life. So during this lockdown time, instead of getting distracted and being fearful, just really take it easy, and every day just on each subject you just meditate, contemplate, and search on the internet and try to read inward and just try to think what you have been doing and what is purpose of your life and what is there called such things called meaning of life. Because of this pandemic, if you really look at it, be it successful, powerful, or poor, doesn't matter, regardless of whoever you are. There's no meaning, really. There's really no meaning if you really look at how the pandemic has been really a support and tools to understand the purpose of our life. So hopefully that you all will utilize this tools and the practice to shape your life and to be a better human being. So I will begin with difficulties of finding human rebirth. Secondly, impermanence of life. Third, defect of life. Fourth is all because of interdependence, of cause and conditions. So hopefully that this will benefit and give you the better perspective of your life. All right, so now 4 thoughts to turn our minds towards the spiritual path, meaning taking a U-turn from this world towards the right path and going back to the freedom. So first, the most important part is to question yourself and to value yourself, and to finding the purpose and then the causes of your human rebirth. And how did you become a human, actually, If you look at superficially, maybe most of us may think that we are given birth by our parents. Yes, biological form of it is absolutely from our parents. But I don't think our soul or the mind is created by our parents, I don't think they have the control over it, and they have actually even created our mind. If it's been created by our parents, then they don't have to be really worried and concerned about us, because they could actually control it, as we are the manifestation of their mastermind, So when we become inconsistent with our families, our parents' thoughts and then the attitude, that explains we are really very independent and and very individuals. So that explains that they are actually a causes of our mind, or something have actually been responsible for this mind of ours. And most of us also think, if you are religious, oh, God has created me. Oh, thank you, God. Even the Buddhists would say that. But I think it's quite unfair to really contemplate and to take a conclusion on that, because God is really compassionate, powerful, divine, free from errors. Such perfect individuals can never create contaminated beings like ourselves. So when we suffer and when we go through difficulties times, be it health or success in life and in our emotions, and this is really unfair to think that God have created us like that, and also to compare the God's production to be very imperfect is really not practical or logically not correct. So I don't think even God have actually created us, Maybe scientifically, or if you can superficially say, mind came from nowhere. If it came from nowhere, then why we are complaining, when we suffer. Because if you came from nowhere and there's no feeling as well, because it existed from nowhere, and we should not be worried too much because we have no values and then the cause of what we are. And or it's not even like seasonally, like mushrooms and flowers just popped up in the wild. So this is why we have to question to ourselves: where did you come from? Who am I? How did I came to form into this physical body? And then my consciousness, my thinking, and my feelings, my emotions, my fear, my love. So according to the Dharma, we have to look into three aspects of it, or the ideas of our purpose of our human rebirth. We call it causes of human rebirth, and then exemplary of our human rebirth, and then the numbers, comparison in numbers of how difficult it is to be born as a human being. So firstly, Gautama Buddha said, to be born as a human being is a great gift from our past life, that we have done a great accumulation of good karma, that we have somehow managed to create seeds to be born as a human being. Without that particular virtue or the karma, it's impossible for us to be born as a human being. So that is the cause that we have created in our past life. And if you look at even exemplary, as mentioned in the text, so imagine that there's a blind turtle under the oceans, and that turtles wish to see the world, and unfortunately he only surfaces once in 100 years, and but there's a method for him to see the world if he can put his neck inside the yolk. So there's a yolk on the surface of the sea. Unfortunately, turtle being blind, he can't see the yolk on the surface, and yolk unfortunately can't understand that the turtle needed to be depend on the yolk. So it is impossible to connect this yolk and then the blind turtle. But there will be a possible in once in 1,000 times or in 1,000,000 times, So this is something like that. For us to be born as a human being is like coming up on the surface once in 100 years. But it is impossible for blind turtle to see the world. So similarly, firstly, it's very difficult to be born as a human being, because there are many other realms we can take form, and we can be born as an animal, pretas, God, in the hell realms. So we can be born into and all these different, if you compare our life, there are many beings around, so we can be born there. And it's very rare for us to be born as a human being. When we are born as a human being, and to understand and appreciate or to value our life is impossible. That's how, if you look at this world, there are many people who are very disturbed, negative, and not able to actually see the light, of this human rebirth. Yeah, so to compare, our life is like that, and even exemplarily, so that is how difficult it is for us to be born as a human being. And if you look at the populations of this universe, look at animals, the one in the sea creatures, wild animals, and domestic animals, and unseen such as spirits and beings in the hell realms, So there are billions and trillions of beings are in those realms, but humans are very limited. We can count human beings. We have our populations numbered, So to be born as a human being is really a great gift, and we needed to really make good use of this great treasure that we have discovered. If we just complain and fear of what's happening around and just get stuck in these current situations and not able to actualize the purpose of our life, so then we are really actually missing and great opportunity. So that's, and the teachings we always remind us, saying that when we are really stuck and attached to this current life, and and missing the bigger picture. So it's always reminded us, saying it's like a beggar building their home on the top of treasure of gold. So purpose of our life is much more than just being worried about current life or being just getting stuck here. So this is why we have to question ourselves, the purpose, meaning, and the values of life, and how long can we live, and how difficult it is for us to be born as a human being now. If you consider yourself as a human being yourself, and if somehow, if you understand that whatever you do is just for temporary, and then eventually when you leave this biological body and your mind may travel continuously, there's a life after death, and I think you need to question that. What will happen to me after life? If you just believe God is responsible, it's okay, I'll go back to heaven, then good luck to you. Or if you scientifically saying, is like a lamp. When the oil is exhausted, the light will go off. Similarly, when your body kind of age and get exhausted, and your mind may be just disappearing somewhere in the air, then don't worry too much, because you are just like seasonal. It's just happening right now. Nothing will really bother you, because you have no continuism. Nothing will continue. So be happy and just do whatever you want. You are doing, and absolutely fine with that. But if there is somehow that a thought of what will happen to me after death, where did I come from, then you maybe needed to live your life differently, I guess. So this is the thing that we need to contemplate, and please just contemplate on this. No recitations, no visualization, just contemplate. Where did I come from? Where will I go? What am I doing? How long will I live? How did I manage to become a human being? What is the purpose of my life? Questions all this, and try to answer it yourself. And I will share my next thought in the next recording.